The lectern night? You want me to go up
okay.
there?
I think they can hear me.
She can talk up there.
Oh.
Do you want me to take the...
No.
Oh, you, Debbie, go up there. So that she has a mic.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming today to our health talk and everyone that's watching online. And I'm very excited to present our speaker today, Lynette LaRue. I did that earlier, sorry. Lynelle LaRue. And she's an international speaker and author. And she's been featured on Fox News and ABC, NBC, and CBS. And she has a nonprofit organization, and and so let us have prayer before she comes up. Heavenly Father, thank you for many blessings, and thank you for our health message. We know there's many people hurting right now, and they need our health message. And we know it's the right arm of the gospel. So let us go forth and spread the health message to the world. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Your brush, your body, and your Bible. I hope this isn't too loud, Peter. Okay, thank you. I fully realize that dental topic is not the most, in the world of speaking, we call it sexy, as in exciting, attractive, interesting. I realize that. But typically, once I get into it, people have all kinds of questions. So we'll see how this goes. Let's see where it goes. 2 things people think of when they think of the dentist. This is when I'm going to ask for audience participation. What do you think of when you think of going to the dentist?
The drill.
The drill? Money? Cleaning? Pain? Okay. What are your interests when it comes to your oral health? Breath? Thank you. Yes? What else? Whitening? What do you sit down in the chair and the first thing after you get the x-rays taken, what's the first thing you ask? Cavities. That's right, cavities. First question people ask me, do I have any cavities? Well, I'm not supposed to say whether you do or not. That's the dentist's job. But that's what people are concerned about, if they have bad breath and if they have cavities. In fact, if you go to Google keyword search, if you're going to place an ad, those are the 2 things that people search for the most, decay and fresh breath. They pay the most for those ads. These are other topics that, as some of you have mentioned, that people are interested in. Whitening, and people often ask about fluoride, and we'll cover those things in the Q&A section. Some quick facts. Did you know that without teeth, you live a 10-year shorter lifespan? That's because if you can't chew your food properly, you don't get the nutrition from it, because the smaller you can masticate the particles, the more nutrition you can extract from it in the stomach. And 70 to 80% of adults in America have some stage of gum disease. A little bit about me. I started in the dental office at the age of 12. My dad was a dentist. In the upper left corner there is my family. That was an assistant in the blue shirt. I got my x-ray license at the age of 14. I've been doing dental hygiene clinical for 41 years. As Deborah mentioned, I've written a little book called Mrs. Universe in the Kingdom of Grace. And I have 2 trademarks, a for-profit, which is Brush for Life, which is an information site, and then I have a nonprofit. And I am just about to graduate with a master's in global health. I was supposed to do that this year, but there was a little snafu, so it will be next year. Another question. The bacteria in your mouth, the bad guys that we're talking about today, how do they multiply? Anybody in the health field here? No one in the health field? One person. How do bacteria multiply? How do they multiply? They divide in half. Thank you. Yes, they divide in half. And so if one cell in the mouth divides every 10 to 20 minutes, which is about average for these ones, in 24 hours, how many bacterial cells will you have? Take a guess. None of the above. In 24 hours, one cell, let's be generous. Let's say it has split every 20 minutes. It will become at least 5,000 billion cells. That's a lot. So it has 18 zeros, and it's 5 times 10 to the 18th power. So where does all this bacteria hang out? Okay. For some, it's like really obvious. You'll see it on the teeth. But most adults don't realize that they are brushing the same as when they were 4, which is, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I can't resist. So it's the anatomy that we don't understand. Now, as I just shared, I grew up in a dental office. And I remember thinking, how does the tooth stay in the mouth? You don't learn this by osmosis. I didn't learn this until I went to dental school over in Loma Linda. So let me give you a little anatomy, because this will be very helpful, okay? Let's say this is your tooth. That's why I wore a lab coat today, so this is my visual aid. Logically, the fist is the enamel part. Logically, we tend to believe that the gums come up to the tooth and just attach. In reality, however, the gums come up to the tooth, dip down, and then attach. So they form like a turtleneck collar. Where two teeth are side by side, the collar comes to a little point, a little apex. It's a freestanding flap of tissue, one on the outside, one on the inside, because your tooth is round like a golf ball on a tee, okay? So this turtleneck, if your bristles, if when you brush, I need a toothbrush. Let me adjust this. There we go. Carry a brush with you. Can you hear me? Okay. I have a really big toothbrush and I don't know where I put it. So if you point your brush directly at your teeth, is it going to get in that turtleneck? No is the correct answer. So you'll want to aim the bristles down into the gums, but most people don't. Most people do what they see on TV. What do you see on TV commercials? You see actors. These people know nothing about dental anatomy. They know nothing about oral care. Don't do what they do. So these bacteria hang out right inside the turtleneck. If they're not removed, the bacteria will cause, they're sitting on this part of the tooth here, okay? And they'll cause the little turtleneck to start to swell because they're attacking the inside of this. And that tissue sends a message to the brain, help, we're under attack. So the brain sends a message back, okay, widen the highways, send in all the white blood cells. To allow that, the blood vessels will dilate. Now they're taut like water balloons. You barely press on them and they break open. And the inside of this turtleneck will have little open wounds, little ulcers. You barely touch them and they tear open. That's where the bleeding comes from. So when I have patients say to me, my gums always bleed. I always bleed when I floss. Well, you're not doing it right, to be quite frank. And it's easy to fix. That's the thing. If you simply modify your brushing so that you're aiming the bristles down for the downstairs and spend longer so you keep them inside of the turtleneck, okay? No one showed me. My dad, like I said, was a dentist. I remember walking down the hall on my way to the bathroom to brush my teeth, and I asked my mother, who taught what was called at that time the control program, which was teaching people how to brush and take care of their teeth and floss. I asked her, how do you floss? And she was walking the other way. She says over her shoulder, make a C shape. I'm like, what is that? That was the extent of my flossing lesson until I got to college. I didn't know. So you want to aim the bristles down into the gums to tear up the biofilm on the side of the tooth. When that is removed, then the ulcers heal, the bleeding stops, and things will look so much better. Most kids you expect, this is a child, as you can tell, will not do that good of a job of brushing. We don't expect adults, however, to look like this. So you remember in high school when you took biology class and you had the microscope, you'd put a slide in there and you could see what was on the slide. Why? Because the cells are stained. So this is a similar type of stain where you can stain the bacteria. It shows up. This product, I love this product, it's called Two-Tone. And it's brilliant purple on bacteria that's been there over 24 hours. Pink if it's been there less than 24 hours. Blue if it's been there so long it's like starting to demineralize the tooth. So you notice how it's all the gum line area? That's because most people brush the same as when they were 4. They're brushing the biting surface of the teeth. When you're adult, you typically don't have a problem with decay. It's gum disease, and people don't realize they need to brush the walls of the teeth, but not scrub. And the average time people spend brushing is only 30 seconds. So we're going to go over how to fix this. So let's talk about bone disease, because this is how most adults lose their teeth. When you go to the dentist, have you ever had them call out numbers? Okay. Has anyone explained what that is?
Isn't it the depth of the pocket?
Yes, yes. So the turtleneck, how deep that is. Now what do the numbers mean though?
Is it the higher the number, the worse it is?
Yes, you've got a good hygienist. I'm impressed. That's good. She must be a Loma Linda graduate.
They are.
I told you. All right, so for the purpose of everyone else's benefit and on the live stream, the root of the tooth from the enamel edge to the root tip is 12 millimeters long on all your teeth, generally, except for your eye teeth, the cuspids. When you go to tear French bread, where do you go? Right to the corner, right? Because you can tell those teeth are more anchored. Those particular teeth have roots twice as long. But the rest of the teeth, 12 millimeters. So that turtleneck should be, if you've got 2 teeth side by side, the turtleneck should only be 1 or 2 millimeters deep on the face of the tooth, and where that little point of tissue is between the teeth, about 2 to 3 millimeters high. So your numbers should read 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3 for like the back teeth. But we don't want to have it go down into 4 because now we know we're down into the socket area. The tooth does not sit smack against the bone. Your tooth rests in the socket but is actually suspended by little threads of tissue that radiate from the tooth like spokes of a wheel packed really tightly together, and they are like trampoline springs. So when you chew, your tooth actually bounces up and down, moves side to side. So your in preservation of the integrity of that is super important, because without the ligament, you lose the tooth. I had somebody yesterday who had a 12 millimeter pocket and a 15 millimeter pocket. It went right past the root apex. So the tooth was loose. He's not going to be able to save the tooth. This bacteria has a byproduct that it produces that makes the walls of your blood vessel permeable. The bacteria go right through they don't need a broken blood vessel to get into your bloodstream. They go right through the wall of the blood vessel and into your bloodstream, and they travel all over your body, and they can affect other organs. Some more quick facts. There are 57 diseases associated with gum disease. Here are just a few. There's at least 8 cancers. So these bacteria, they go through the wall of the blood vessel or through broken blood vessels, and they can set up housekeeping in your kidneys. A lot of people that are in nursing homes end up with pneumonia because of the oral bacteria in their mouth. They're inhaling all this nastiness because no one's taking care of their teeth for them. It's very sad. So your mouth is the beginning of your alimentary tract. It's the gateway to nutritional health. The mouth, unfortunately, medical schools, all but one that I know of, do not incorporate dental training with medical. The dentists and the medical doctors are trained separately. And they are connected. The mouth is connected to the body. And yet medical doctors know practically nothing about it, or the association of, they'll maybe have heard of it. I had a medical doctor, I did a five-week temp job up in Idaho, and I had a physician. I showed him the poster that I just showed you with all the diseases. He was so excited, he took a picture of it. They don't know anything about it, just like they don't know anything about nutrition. And I'm not dissing them, I'm just saying that they're not given that. So it's really important to be proactive for yourself. I'm glad you're all here and that you who are watching because this is going to be very useful for you. Flossing removes 40% of the bacteria on your teeth. Now these front lower teeth, they look real narrow, right? Now at the gum line where you're looking at them. If you were to turn the tooth sideways, it looks like this. Those lower front teeth are actually, they're shaped this way. They're kind of wedge shaped on the back, so that God created it so when you bite, it scoops off, and it's kind of like a little slide. There's a little bump here. And so there's a lot of there's a big triangular surface area on the left and right side of these front teeth, and of course in the back teeth. So yes, you need to floss. The very last tooth, you remember I was telling you about the 15 and the 16 millimeter pockets that was on say this is the molar, the last tooth over here. The back side, it was 15 on the cheek side and 12 millimeters on the tongue side, but all around the rear of that tooth. It's a really hard place to brush, and it's difficult to floss because the floss tends to want to just fly off the back of the tooth. You can't really go up and down very easily. The best thing I learned when I was in school at Loma Linda is yarn that you knit with. Yeah, yarn. You don't want to use floss in a shoe shine motion. You can literally saw a slit through your tooth doing that. Plus, above and below it doesn't get clean. But yarn is like mega floss. You can put it behind the tooth, do a little shoe shine action. It's so big and fuzzy. It's fantastic for cleaning the plaque off the backside of the last tooth. dentist pays like $2 a brush. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay. So the dentist has to pay for those brushes. They're not gifted to him from the company. So I thought, well, let me see, because I had rinsed it out with water and I couldn't get all the purple out of the bristles. So I put liquid soap on the side of the brush, on the side, not down the middle, on the side here and the side here, and I rubbed the brush, put it under water, all the purple disappeared. Took the plaque right out of the brush. And you want to know how to figure out if you've got bad breath? Oh, first of all, after you brush your teeth, tap all the water out of it, wait a few minutes, 2 or 3, 4 minutes, then sniff your brush. It'll smell bad. Wash it out with soap and water, no more smell. Okay, so I'm not suggesting you use that in your mouth. I'm just saying that if you don't, listen, if you don't, what are you doing? You're putting bacteria back in your mouth and just rearranging it. It's still going to be stuck in there. So if you're cleaning your shower, you've got mold in the grout, you spray it, like you're going to spray it with peroxide. You spray it, is it gone? It's dead, but it's still there. So that's why you want to use soap and water and get it out. Yeah. So here's the test to know if you have bad breath. You lick the back of your hand, and you wait 7 seconds, 1001, 1002, 1003, etc., and then take a whiff. That's what your breath smells like. That's the breath test. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. You lick your hand, and that's how you'll know what your breath smells like. Okay, coming back to where we were here. This is very sad that I have no lavalier mic. All right, where were we? Yes, you need to floss, use yarn, and use a toothbrush with rows of bristles, not a round brush head. They make these spin brushes. Don't buy those. They're designed, now I get what they're designed to emulate. Can I take this off here? I gotta move around. That's better. All right. The round head is supposed to imitate what we polish your teeth with. You know, the round, okay. The problem is those round heads are like twice as wide as that little rubber cup that we use. The little rubber cup is that size, like that, for a reason, because that's about how wide your front teeth are. So it will adapt, and the rubber cup is cup-shaped. It's like hollow in the middle. Those electric brushes with the round head, flat. I have seen teeth, two patients, that have literally burned a hole right through their enamel with those round head brushes, trying to get it to go around the tooth like they see in the commercials. It does this great car wash action in the commercial. You know what? It doesn't do that in real life. It flattens the teeth. I've seen other people that have brushed all the enamel off their teeth trying to get it to go in between the teeth because it's not designed to do that. It's not going to. So the best brush to use is like a conventional shaped toothbrush with rows of bristles. Okay, moving on. So let's talk about how to get the optimal results with your brushing. Smile, S-M-I-L-E. I trademarked this. I remember I was teaching people the 5 Ps for brushing. Even I couldn't remember the 5 Ps. And I prayed about it. I said, Lord, I need something easier. First thing that came to mind was the word smile. And I'm like, okay, well, that's like what we do. And I'm like, can I have something more? I got nothing more. So I thought, okay, let me think about this. And I remember who I was. I was in the bedroom upstairs, master bedroom. I was praying about it, and I'm like, okay, let me see what I can work with. Well, I show people where to start. So, that could be the S in smile. And then I show them how to move the brush. Well, that's the M, and then the incline. I'm like, I have been doing this for 25 years, and I didn't realize it. So that's how you're going to remember this. So S is for start. Most people, when they start their brushing, where do you put the brush? Right in the front or on the left, because that's what we see them do in commercials, right? However, over time, all that toothpaste in one spot If there's no plaque there, like those really bad pictures I showed you, most people don't look like that. It eventually will take the enamel off the teeth, which is what happened to this patient. So you want to put all that toothpaste to work for you so it doesn't work against you, because the enamel is the pretty part of the tooth. It's like white glass. This is where you need to put the toothbrush when you first start. That tartar is because under the tongue are two saliva ducts. And saliva is what carries the minerals, calcium, phosphate into your mouth, and that's what's adhering to the teeth. M is movement. You don't want to literally scrub the teeth. There you go. You want to just wiggle. See that? 2 teeth at a time. Work on just 2 teeth at a time. I is incline. Angle the bristles up for the upstairs. Now the bristles that are on the outside that you can see there, when you angle the brush toward the teeth, let me clip this. When you angle the brush, if this is the lower teeth, this way. When you angle the brush toward the teeth, when the outside bristles turn and they contact also, you're now going to be at 45 degrees, and that's the ideal angle. Not 90 degrees. Don't point straight at, because you won't get in the turtleneck, right? You want to get them down in here. 2 teeth at a time will keep them in the turtleneck, and then this is what 90 degrees looks like. You see how it's missing all the space between the teeth? You come in, people come in and they're like, that hurts. Why are my gums bleeding? Well, because you're just brushing the hump of every tooth. That's why. So this is what I've talked about here. The bristles don't get in the turtleneck. L is level. Most of us brush parallel on the outside, like this, and on the inside we do this, I call it the death grip. We do the death grip on the inside. Don't do this, don't do this. You want to bring the handle down in center or up in center, like that, for either the left or the right side. And don't do this on the lower front teeth. The American Dental Association teaches you this. The American Hygiene Association, Crest, Colgate, Oral-B, Sensodyne, you name it, they all teach you this. I don't know who their artist is, but they're not in the dental field. And no one realizes it. This doesn't work, and I'm going to show you why. This is the result of brushing like that. You see the tartar. This is typically what we see when people come in for their cleaning. This is in Africa, Kenya. This person doesn't brush the inside at all because most people don't. In Kenya, I don't know about other countries, but they tend to, I kid you not, they tend to only brush the outside of their teeth. And you can ask them, do you brush the inside? No. Why should I brush the inside? Because no one sees that. So they don't, and then it gets really, really heavy. If you brush the lower front teeth with the handle up in the air, pointing to the floor of your mouth, first of all, do you brush the outside like this? We do this, okay? But people, so you don't want to do this because it's going to miss this area right at the gum line between the tooth and where that little turtleneck is. You can see this little triangular area, and that's what filled in the other picture you saw. It forms eventually this nice smooth wall of tartar that has filled in all the low areas right there. So if you turn your brush parallel to the row of teeth, it'll drop like this. The bristles will drop in between the teeth, and if you just park there and do 2 teeth at a time, it'll help. If you make this the first place you put your toothbrush, it'll slow down the tartar buildup considerably. E is ease up. 20% of a woman's body weight is muscle. 40% of a man's body weight is muscle. So by mere virtue of their physiology, they're going to be pressing harder than they realize without trying. And the brush ends up looking like this. Don't use a brush like this. Because your point is to put the brush into the turtleneck, right? And if they're going every which way, you can't direct them all to go, 45 degrees. So how do you know when to change your brush? When you turn the brush handle away from you, like how you're looking at it right now, if you can see the bristles on either side of the head, that's when to change your brush. This is not your friend. Throw it away. There you go, see? You don't use the long side of the bristle. The bristle tip is what does the magic. All right. Toothbrushes are on average kept 6 to 12 months. I had one patient who came in, he had his toothbrush in his shirt pocket like this, and it looked just like that picture you saw. Okay? And he sits in the chair, and I said, I'll tell you what, I'll trade you this, and I slid it out of his pocket, and you would have thought I was taking his best friend away. The look of horror on his face. And I said, I'll give you a new one. Here's another one. So the round head brush, the Oral-B is the one that I am referring to, but those Spin Pro, the Crest Spin Pro is the other round head one. They run on batteries. They don't work very well at all, so don't buy the round ones. Okay, moving on. So you want to brush smarter, not harder. For review videos, I have all of everything that I told you and more on my website, Brush for Life, which is what I make for patient education. I made that just because I was preparing a talk, and I came across a study by Herman Ebbinghaus, published in 1885. It's called On Memory. And it has, as a good study should show, it has been repeated many times since then with the same results. We forget about 47% of what we learn in 20 minutes. So by the time you get to your cars, you'll have forgotten most everything you hear, or half of everything you hear. 78% in a week. So I made the site so that, because when I saw that study, and I had a light bulb moment, and I realized that's why patients aren't complying. It's not that they don't want to, it's they simply don't remember. So I went to the work of making little videos there. When I was in Africa, I do mission trips twice a year to Kenya. I have a portable dental clinic that I keep in bins with 2 large compressors. So I was out doing a safari with the team, and I set my phone with the camera side up on time exposure to get a picture of the stars. It wasn't this shot, but it looked like that when it was exposed. It saw things that I didn't even see with the naked eye. It was amazing. Just real pretty, because you're so far from any light pollution out there. And I got to thinking, as I have before, why are we here? What is our purpose? What's my purpose? And as I contemplated that, and then I came home and I did some reading, I found something that was very appropriate, and I wanted to share it with you today. Only one lease of life is granted us, and the inquiry with everyone should be, how can I invest my powers so that they may yield the greatest profit? How can I do most for the glory of God and the benefit of fellow man? That's what we're here for. To glorify God and to benefit our fellow man. For life is valuable only as it is used for the attainment of these ends. Our purpose, therefore, is to serve God and to introduce others to Jesus. And we don't have very much time left. Are you ready? Our duty is in the next paragraph. Our first duty toward God and our fellow beings is that of self-development. God requires the body to be rendered a living sacrifice to Him, not a dead or dying sacrifice. It is as truly a sin to violate the laws of our being as it is to break the 10 Commandments. How? Romans 6, 14, 16, and 18. I didn't bring my Bible with me. You have a Bible here? Someone have a Bible? Okay. And I didn't make this slide for it. So let's go to the Word of God and read it. Acts, Romans. There we go. Verse 14. For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under the law, but under grace. Verse 16. Do you not know to whom ye shall present yourselves slaves to obey? There's something I'm going to show you here. You are, that one, slaves to whom you, know ye not yours, servants to whom ye obey, whether sin unto death or obedience unto righteousness. I know the King James Version by heart. And then verse 18, and having been set free from sin, you became slaves of righteousness. So this word, this phrase, made free, I like to go deep dive when I read the Bible. I go to my Strong's Concordance, check it out. And that means to be set at liberty from the dominion of sin. That is good news. But there's more. The children of God cannot glorify him with sickly bodies or dwarfed minds. Whoops, this Bible is going crazy on me. There it is. Those who indulge in any species of intemperance, either in eating or drinking, waste their physical energies and weaken moral power. Matthew 24:38. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking. Isn't it interesting that that is what's mentioned? Why is that mentioned? Have any of you heard of a young man by the name of Gabriel Estavio? Is that how you say it? Estevo. Thank you. I appreciate that. Have you heard of him? Oh, you got to hear his testimony. You go to YouTube and you go to a channel called The Blue Pattern. This young man was raised by demons. Literal Satan's angels. He was taken from his parents at the age of 9 months. And they materialized. They were his playmates. It's the most jaw-dropping story. And he was raised on his grandfather's farm. They taught him to be very, very temperate. You know why? So that they could have the best connection with his mind. He had strict hours for eating. He had strict wake and sleep times. He had a nap time. He had sunbathing time. Yeah, every day it was the same schedule. And if Satan's angels are going to, realize how important that is for self-control and for temperance and regularity, how much more should we be careful about this? So that's why I believe that was included in here. They were eating and drinking like anything they wanted, anytime they wanted. But in Counsels and Diets of Foods, did you know that the first chapter of this book says nothing about food? Did you know that? Did you know that, Pastor? I didn't know that either. He knew that. You've read it. You know what it's about? Evangelism. It's not about food. Thought that was very interesting. When I worked I used to live in San Francisco area, Oakland. And the doctor's wife did the insurances. And it was a little 2-story house, and it had been living quarters upstairs for the doctor that had originally built this office, and then his office was downstairs, so his commute was a set of stairs. And I had eaten lunch in what was the kitchen, and I was walking past the desk where the doctor's wife had been doing her insurance, and it really bothered her that I kept the Sabbath. So out of the clear blue sky, as I'm walking past, just about to go down the stairs, she blurts out, "I'm so glad we're saved by grace." And I stopped and I looked at her and like, okay, see you later. And I went home that night and I thought, what does that really mean? What does it mean to be saved by grace? I mean, really. So I checked it out. The word grace in Greek is, how do you say that? Charis? Okay. Guess what? What have you been told grace means? Unmerited favor. Guess what? It's not in there. You know what else? Every time in the New Testament that word grace is used, except for one verse, it's this word. You want to know what it means? Let me get my illustration here. The divine influence upon the heart and its reflection in the life. It is a word of power. That's what grace means. To be saved from the power of the enemy, to be made to reflect the likeness of Jesus. That is good news. Know ye not that your bodies are the members of Christ? What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own, for ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. Today we celebrated communion. And I sat here and wept, thinking about how much torture Christ was put through before he finally gave up the ghost. As I was getting ready this morning, I burnt my hand on the flat iron, the curling iron I was using. Oh, that hurt. Nothing compared to being flogged, having hunks of flesh torn out of your back, and then rubbing that on raw wood, sunk into the ground with it tearing the flesh in your arms. Can you imagine how much he suffered so that we could have eternal life? And I fear, my friends, we do not estimate the holiness of Christ when we come to worship in the sanctuary, where we expect his presence to be. We talk during the service or in between. We are not as reverent as we should be. Did you know that in this testimony that Gabriel gives, even the demons do not take God's name in vain? Did you know that? They do not use they don't say GD, they don't do any of that. They even reverence God more than we do. You are a living testimony, my friends. Much is given to us, and much, as Adventists, is required. Jesus is coming very soon. Our lifetime, my lifetime, he is coming very, very soon. So may I ask, what is in your hand? We're each given talents. We often think of these as music or, what we interpret as talents. In the Bible, a talent was a measure of money. It's something that the person was entrusted with to invest somehow. How are you investing what God has given you? Every one of you here is given a talent. I'm going to tell you what it is. But first, let me ask you, what will you do with it? Your one talent is health. We have been given the health message. this is a small part of it. I asked God, what do you want me to do? I clean teeth for a living. And he asked me, what is that in your hand? I said, it's a scaler, Lord. And he said, what are you doing with it? Well, now, I do dental clinics, and we serve about 100 people a day. And I make sure, no matter how much work it is, that we have evangelism that goes with it. And our last trip, we had 24 baptisms, raised up a whole new church. We support a Bible worker, so those people are not going out the back door. I check on them, make sure that they're getting Bible studies. And I want to do it again and again. And yet I don't know how much time we have left. My vision was to have a portable dental clinic with a truck, branded, to be able to go to like 9 or 10 countries, East Africa, several more West Africa with another truck, and another truck in South Africa. It doesn't look like we're going to have time. So again, I'm in a place, I lost my job yesterday. What do you want me to do? I don't know where you want me to go. But I am here, Lord, and I'm willing. Are you? Let's pray. Father in heaven, we humbly come before your throne of grace. We know you are coming soon. Please purify our hearts. The fields are white for harvest. You have told us that not 1 in 20 in our ranks is ready to meet you. Lord, I pray that we will not be shaken out, but that we will raise our hand and be willing. Call me, Lord. I want to be part of the final work. Lord, let not the latter rain fall all around us, but miss us. I pray, Lord, that you will pour your Holy Spirit out upon us who are here. Help us, Lord, to do the introspection needed, that we can search our souls and ask you to show those things to us that need your cleansing blood, that need your grace. In Jesus' name I ask, amen. It's not all about brushing. If you have any questions, I meant to pass out cards. I forgot. You can email them to me. The most common question that I have is about fluoride. So I spent time last night researching what I already knew, but being able to make a document. So I have a really good document. If you want, I will email it to you. Okay? It has a whole page of citations. And it's really good. It's really good. I'm not a fan of fluoride. The other thing that I like to talk about is our immunity. There's so much that's interconnected. There's so much that I want to share and cover. I know you'll burn out and you'll be tired and exhausted. But I did prepare slides on that. And I took them out, but I have them here. The other thing that people ask about is, where does tartar come from? And that is something I'd like to cover if you're okay with that. It has to do with your diet. It hasn't to do with your brushing. I had a patient who had a lot of tartar on her teeth. She had so much calculus. You literally, I kid you not, could not see her upper molars. They were completely entombed in tartar. And this was, I just graduated from Loma Linda. This wasn't in Kenya. This was in Lancaster. And I'm like, whoa, it must just have been a long time, because I was my dad's first hygienist. I thought it just had been a long time since she'd had her teeth cleaned. It took me 4 hours to clean her teeth. An hour, full hour per quadrant. And it wasn't just because I was new, it was because there was so much on her teeth. So after finishing her, we then scheduled her for a 3-month appointment. About 2 weeks after I'd finished her, she shows up at the office. She had lost a filling. It was unrelated to what I had done. I didn't have a patient at the moment. My mom was on the phone, and I said, come on back, I'll take the x-ray, because insurance requires before and after pictures to make sure it's legit, right? If we're going to do a filling, they don't want us going into virgin teeth that don't need it. So she goes, sits in the chair, opens her mouth. I went to put the film in, I about fell over. She already had tartar on her teeth in 2 weeks. This was not plaque. It was crispy stuff. I'm like, what are you eating? And she's like, what? So I asked her, how often do you have this particular food? And she's like, every meal. I'm like, oh, we need to have a talk. So let me share with you what I told her. To make muscle contract, you have to have something called adenosine triphosphate. There's 3 phosphorus molecules. Our body only needs a little bit of phosphorus. All the extra phosphorus, when you have too much in your diet, is sent back into your bloodstream looking for something to marry, because it's missing 2 electrons. You know how you remember the nucleus, and then they've got electrons spinning around it. This is missing 2 electrons, and it goes in search of something with 2 extra electrons. To marry, now you'll have these 2 together, and the body will kick it out because it usually can't use it. So what phosphorus marries is calcium, because it's got 2 extra electrons. So now you have calcium phosphate. Body can't use that, and so it kicks it out through either the saliva ducts, forming tartar, or through the kidneys, forming kidney stones. Very painful. So I asked her, how often do you have meat? Adenosine triphosphate is what makes muscle contract. That's the energy molecule. And she's like puzzled every meal, like, why should I ask? Like, that's normal. I'm like, no, that is not normal. You should not have meat every single meal. So I told her this little fact about the calcium phosphate. And so I said, I suggest, and I cleaned her teeth again, and I said, I suggest that you dial it back and try this next 3 months, a little experiment, and eat mostly plant-based. Have no more than 3 servings a week. And she says, I'm going to try that, because guess where? Does this, yeah. See the bottom bullet? Jawbones, spine, head of the femur? Because in adults, there's only 3 places that generate calcium. These are areas of trauma. The spine, when you run or jump, your spine needs to absorb this trauma. The jawbones, when you chew, your teeth are torquing around in there, and so that'll stimulate calcium production and bone generation. And the head of the femur. And I've had 2 ER doctors confirm that when people fall from hip fracture, in some cases, it's the head of the femur snapping, and then they fall. So I said, as women, we already have a problem with osteoporosis. I would suggest that you dial it back. She said, I'm going to try that. So I cleaned her teeth again, moved her appointment another 2 weeks out, so it would be 3 months instead of 2.5. She came back, and I kid you not, because I looked at the clock when I went out to get her for her appointment time in the chair. From the moment she walked back till she left, 20 minutes. Yeah. Her teeth were so clean. It made, and I can tell when I get a patient in, a couple, husband and wife will come together. He's a meat and potatoes guy, and she's mostly plant-based. He's a lot of work, a lot of bleeding, a lot of bone loss, because the calcium's coming from the jawbones. Right? See? number one. And she hardly has any tartar in her teeth and no bleeding. So the jawbones hold your teeth in, and as the whole row of the bone all around the teeth, it starts to recede, and that's when you get food trapped between your teeth. That's just really annoying. And then you have gum disease, in the socket area, destroying bone, and so, people that eat meat tend to have just so much bone loss. It's very unfortunate. And then sugar will also deplete your bones, because sugar competes with vitamin C, and vitamin C, glucose, the structure of glucose and a sugar molecule are very similar. And it incapacitates your white blood cells, because the white blood cells needs do I have that in here? Nope. Yeah, here we go. Let's go to, there we go. You need 50 times the amount of vitamin C inside the white blood cell as outside. And when you have glucose in your system, it will move into the white blood cell, kick out the vitamin C, and now the white blood cell is immobilized. That's why we get sick, because the white blood cell has become incapacitated. And the vitamin C is also important for, let's go back up here, for the collagen. And collagen is like the scaffolding that bone forms around. So if you don't have enough vitamin C in your diet, then you're not going to have healthy bones either. Does that make sense? I'm running through it kind of quickly. All right. So there is liquid calcium. I was home by myself taking my supplements one day, and calcium molecules are very, very large. And I had taken a couple calcium pills, and one got stuck in my airway. Very frightening. I knew I didn't have long because I couldn't breathe. And so I ran next door, pounded on the neighbor's door. I was in a condominium at that time in Sacramento when I was attending Sac Central. And no one was home, so I ran back to my place, and I managed to get a chair, the top of a chair, to do the Heimlich on myself and get it coughed up. Very scary. So I looked for an alternate source of calcium. You want to take calcium citrate. The cheaper is calcium orotate or carbonate. Calcium carbonate is the cheapest of the calciums. It's the most readily available, and it's also not what your bones are going to uptake. So you want to take calcium citrate. This tastes good. The other liquid calciums are not so tasty. Okay. Questions? Now that I've covered those things. Yes, sir. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Fluoride? Mm-hmm. That's sad. Question it. Yeah. If you don't study it, if you don't read it, and let me tell you something. When I first looked into it, it was because a stranger at a health food store gave me a VHS tape on it. And I just checked AI last night, and it was full of great information. But at that time, Google was around. It was just after the internet had been, invented. And so after watching this tape, I decided to go to do a search. And I typed in 2 words, fluoride and toxic. And the whole first page was all these hits of research. That lasted for maybe a year. Buried after that. Can't find it. Unless, and as I found out, now that I'm taking these courses for my master's, have you heard of Google Scholar? Oh, you must check it out. It is scholar.google.com. And that's what students go to find research studies on the things that they need for documentation for whatever they're studying for their thesis or whatever. Scholar.google.com. And you type in the keywords that you're looking for, that's where you're going to find the research studies. But AI has made it even faster, and you can type most of the time it works. Sometimes they still hide things and they still tell you things that aren't true. But it worked for me last night. And you can type in the keywords and tell it exactly what you want it to generate for you and the citations, and it gave me some really great information on fluoride last night. I didn't have to go to Google Scholar. There were dozens and dozens of studies that were listed out for me, which I put in the article if you want it. Yes, sir. Did you have a question? No? Okay. Okay. Glad you asked. That's a good question. Should we use a soft or a firm toothbrush? The teeth are round, and the firmer the bristle, the less the bristles will flex to adapt to the curve of the tooth, and the more enamel it will take off. And tissue, it will strip if your teeth, these two teeth here, it will strip the tissue off the front of the root, the face of the root, without allowing it to really get underneath. The medium and the hard brushes will do a lot of damage. It may feel like it's brushing more thoroughly, but because the teeth are round, it actually is not. You want a soft brush. The one that is the most, I was using the Sonicare not realizing that the brush heads, because they don't name them soft, medium, and hard, they name them like Diamond Clean and a bunch of other names, fancy names that don't give any indication as to what firmness the bristle is. So I was using the Diamond Clean not realizing it was a firm brush, and it was starting to cause recession. Every time I brushed, I'd cry. Perry says to me, "What's wrong?" one day. And I said, because my eyes are watering, and I said, "It hurts, it's so painful." And it was soon after that, there was this buzz in one of my hygiene Facebook groups about this new sonic brush that was on the market. And it's called the Burst. So they were trying to promote it. So they were telling hygienists, if you pay $20 for the brush, we'll send it to you. And if you write a review on what you think of it, we'll give you the $20 back. So you would get the brush for free, but that was, the incentive. So I tried out the brush, and it was like heaven the first time I put that in my mouth. I could brush without pain. The bristles, which you'll see on the E of Smile in the video on the website, the bristles are really, really feathered. They're super thin at the tip, so they're really gentle. And there's a little rubber peg in the middle of the bristles, in the very center, that comes about 2/3 of the way up. And it's like a doorstop. It prevents you from pressing too hard. It's a really cool brush. So you don't want to get the Chinese knockoff heads on Amazon. If you get the heads, you get the Burst heads, because the bristles are better. Does that answer your question? Burst. Yeah, the website is Burst Oral Care. There's a promo code you can use if you want a discount. It'll be cheaper than Amazon. It's BFL. Like Brush for Life. BFL. Let me see if I've got, there you go, Brush for Life. Yes, ma'am. That's a good question. The irrigators. The term the term water flossers is a misnomer. The only thing that's going to take the plaque off your teeth is mechanical friction. They will blast debris out from between the teeth, and it's really helpful if you have, spaces between the teeth, because food particles will get entrapped with saliva, and I've tried to get floss in there and get it to slide. I can't get it to slide out. And around implants, there is something that is the bomb. It's called the HydroFloss. It's like a water pick on steroids. So I checked this out. I did some research. The principle of magnetohydrodynamics is actually used on these really large water conduits. You've seen these huge water pipes? Yeah? They don't want to have to replace those once they put them in the ground. And they've learned that if they put magnets on the outside of them, it prevents minerals from forming on the inside and slowly closing the lumen. So it keeps the minerals in the water suspended in the water. And so some bright individual decided to apply this same science to a water irrigation, oral irrigation device. And they've done 5 studies with it, and it will prevent the tartar from accumulating on the teeth. Makes your teeth feel like Teflon. Hydrofloss, it's on the website. I don't have a connection here, but you can go to the FAQ page, and everything that are by topic is there. You can click on that, and it will take you to where you can get it for less than Amazon. Because Amazon Prime, they wrap the shipping into the price. Yes, sir. Yes. Damage. Good. Valid question. Yes, go ahead. Okay. So the two-part question. Doesn't the prophy paste, the polishing paste, damage the enamel because it feels like sand? It is synthetic sand. It's silica, type of silica. So very small grit. There's different grit sizes. There's fine for children. It's usually a yellow color. And then now they don't color code them. Companies are doing, but there's medium and there's coarse. Because we don't use it very often, it's not going to damage the enamel like it would if you were using it every day. It absolutely would hurt the enamel if you use it every day. When you are, say you've got this really weathered picnic table that has been painted years back. When you sand it, you're taking off the paint. Yeah. So when we polish, when I polish teeth, I do it first, and then I touch up last with it. I use the polishing paste to take the tartar off that's thin. This veneer calculus takes not just the plaque off, but the tartar. It makes the scaling go really fast. They didn't teach me that at school. I just happened upon that when I had a 12-year-old who wasn't brushing. And I didn't want to scoop all this plaque off his teeth. It was just, ugh. And I thought if I brush it, it might splatter, trying to brush his teeth for him to speed up this thing. And so I remembered in school, they told us if it's really bad, polish first. So I polished and I followed with a suction and sucked up all this bacteria on his teeth. And I noticed that it took the tartar off that had started to form underneath that was light, and whatever was left had become very brittle, and it popped off really easily. So I popped that off. The purpose of the polishing paste is to remove residual calculus, tartar. So as long as you're not using it on root surfaces, because that will take off the mineralized surface of the root, and that will make them sensitive. That's one reason I encourage patients not to drink tea, because we have to polish, and the scraping isn't going to hurt the enamel. The instruments are dulled by the teeth and the tartar. I have to constantly resharpen my instruments when I have somebody that has a lot of stuff on their teeth, because it dulls my instrument. So if they're drinking coffee and tea and we have to keep polishing to try and get it off, that's not a good thing to have to do that every time if there's root surface exposed. So that was that. And then you asked about PerioProtect. So PerioProtect does work. I have found in my experience that using an end tuft with hydrogen peroxide diluted 1-on-1 with water and a drop of chlorine is extremely effective. The bacteria under your gums will die in the presence of 3 things: salt, oxygen, and chlorine. Hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. It's water with extra oxygen molecule tacked on. You add a little bit of chlorine to that, just a drop. You literally don't need more than that. It turns to salt in the mouth. And you can use a brush to dip into that and work that under the gums like I showed you, and it will help the gums get nice and healthy. I had a patient, for example, with a 9mm pocket, this first molar here. The patient was from China, student, one of these overachievers. And so I cleaned that area really well. I told her to get one of these special little toothbrushes called an end tuft. Instead of having a whole head of bristles like that, the blue bristles at the end was all that was on the handle, just a few at the end. Showed her how to slide that up into the pocket and wiggle it around, tear up the biofilm, and then I gave her a syringe that we use for doing root canals. It's not a needle, it's a tube with a window on the side, so fluid can flow out the side of it. And I had her irrigate that. It healed from a 10mm pocket to a 1. Doing that, she did it not once a day or twice a day. I told her to do it twice a day. She did it 3 times a day. And that's why I healed up. Another patient with a 9mm pocket, he did the same thing, healed to a 1. And that's because you keep ahead of the biofilm reorganizing itself and then causing the disease. So PerioProtect, I don't know the components of it, but the idea is to get something to go under the gums, which mouthwash, by the way, people ask about mouthwash. You swish this mouthwash, it will only go 1mm under the edge of the gums, 1. And if you've got like 5mm pockets, it's not doing anything except wasting your money. So I'm not a fan of mouthwash. That's on the website too under FAQ, mouthwashes, and it tells you a study that was done in Australia. Holding alcohol in your mouth is not a good idea. It predisposes the tissue. It causes dysplasia. Does anyone know what dysplasia is? It's the precursor stage to cancer. It's when the cells change from normal to abnormal. And then after that, they go from abnormal to cancer. So not a real fan of mouthwashes that have alcohol in them. Does that answer your question? Sort of. I don't know, is it a tray? Or it's a tray, yeah. So the tray isn't going to necessarily get the gel to go under the gums. The tray is this. This. If you put your toothbrush into peroxide water and slight bleach and you work that into the gums, it's going to get deeper and do a better job for you than PerioProtect. PerioProtect works, but it's not going to get very far into the gums. It's not going to get 5 or 6mm. I can promise you that. I can promise you that, especially between the teeth. You'd need something to mechanically deliver it up in there. It will help like superficially, but I would have to do some research. If you email me and ask me about it, I'll do some research for you and let you know. I would be very surprised if it turns around 5 and 6mm pockets. Mm-hmm. Yes. True story. Yes. It's true. Yeah. I don't like the idea of chewing gum because it keeps your stomach in a constant state of expecting something to come down the hatch. So that's why I'm not using it or telling patients to use it. I go to more mechanical things, but yeah, yes, mm-hmm. That's fine. Anybody else? Oh, yes, sir. great question. So your brown bottle of hydrogen peroxide has a little white cap. That's your measuring cup. You use that, 1 cup of peroxide, 1 cup of water, the little cap full of water, 1 cap full of peroxide, and then I use the bristles to capture the bleach. And I keep a glass jar on my bathroom counter with household bleach in it because I've got an Invisalign trays, and so I sanitize them with just I put the brush in the bleach so it gets soaked up into the bristles, and then I stir it in the water. I'm good. Same thing with the peroxide. Use it to get some of the bleach and then dip that in your peroxide and water. Yeah, don't use any of the bleaches that have scents, like lavender and lemon and all that, just your regular chlorine. Anybody else? We're done. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I hope that it was informative for you. If you can stomach it, be my guest. I tried brushing with baking soda once, and I lost my cookies. I could not deal with it. Ugh. Yeah, I threw up. All right. Yes, you're welcome. Good night. You know, at convention, that booth tries so hard to get me to do it. In order to have it be somewhat efficacious, you have to swish with it for a long time. And several minutes. That's a long time. Just the thought of oil in my mouth, I just like baking soda. I just can't. Yeah. I've been told that the studies, there's not much done on it, but again, I would have to research that more, and I've just not been motivated, although people ask me about it sometimes. Because I've seen such great results with mechanical debridement, using a brush, floss, yarn, things that will disturb the biofilm, and knowing that swishing with anything is not going to get under the gums, it's not going to tear up the biofilm it's stuck to the tooth, I'm not excited about spending my time looking into it. When I stain the teeth with that purple dye, I then use woven floss. Woven floss is the best, by the way, by Burst. On my website, I need to do a screenshot of the homepage. On my website is a red button that says recommended items. So when I'm a guest on a podcast, I send the listeners to the website, and they just click on that, and it has a whole menu of all the things that I'm talking about on the show. So under the recommended items is recommended flosses, and all of that takes you to another page in the website that you won't see otherwise. And it has all the different woven flosses that I've tried, and I do a little write-up under each of them as to what this is best for and what this wouldn't be recommended for, and so on like that. So woven floss, I know, will expand and tear up the biofilm in a way that oil pulling is not going to, and especially between the teeth. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Somewhat. Yeah. You can go to Grok and ask, or to any AI. There's several. There's like 6 or 7 different AI platforms. And ask it to show you the research on the effectiveness of oil pulling with citations. Okay? That's what I've learned. You have to tell it, you have to be very specific. Otherwise, it's simply going to do a cursory pull from the internet and pull stuff that isn't necessarily true. Yeah. Yeah. So charcoal, you have to have it a very, very, very small particle. It needs to be like scientifically small for it to not scratch the enamel. And it tends to get packed under the gums, and then your gum line looks black. And this is based on what hygienists have been saying in their experience in the Facebook groups. That's why I go to Facebook, is to check out my hygiene groups. It's very helpful, to get peer input, from all over the world, in fact. So there was one called Black on White. It's no longer made, but that particular charcoal toothpaste had a very small, like nanoparticle size of charcoal, but otherwise it's not recommended because it's too scratchy. You were asking about prophy paste. Yeah, you wouldn't want to use charcoal to brush with.
If it was small enough, what are the benefits? Is it whitening your teeth, or is it pulling out bacteria, or the benefits of using charcoal in the first place?
Well, charcoal will absorb several times its own size and weight of toxins. And so if you have an infection in your mouth, it can draw the toxins out of that. However, if you have an infection in your gums, it will tattoo your gums permanently. So there's another reason that I don't recommend putting charcoal in your mouth, because it can turn that spot black, which isn't always pretty. Yeah, that's the word. Okay. All right. Anything else? Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, everybody.